Digha Nikāya, Sutta number 18, Janavasabha Sutta, addressing the gods. Thus have I heard. At one time the Blessed One was staying at Nadika, at the brick house. At that time the Blessed Lord was explaining the rebirths of various devotees up and down the country who had died and passed away. The Kasis and the Kosalans, the Vajjans and Mallas, the Chetis and Vangsas, the Kurus and Panchalas, the Matchas and Surasenas, saying, "This one was reborn there, and that one there." More than 50 Nadikan devotees, followers of the Buddha, having abandoned the 5 lower fetters, were reborn spontaneously in the pure abodes, and would attain Nibbāna without ever returning to this world. Over 90 of them, having abandoned 3 fetters and weakened greed, hatred, and delusion, were once returners, who would return to this world once more and then make an end of suffering. And more than 500, having abandoned 3 fetters, were stream winners, incapable of falling into the lower states of woe, certain of Nibbāna. This news reached the ears of the devotees in Nadika, and they were pleased, delighted, and filled with joy to hear the Blessed Lord's replies. Then the Venerable Ananda heard of the Blessed One's report and the Nadikan's delight. And he thought, "There were also Magadhan disciples of long standing who have died and passed away. One would think Anga and Magadha contained no Magadhan disciples who had died. Yet they too were devoted to the Buddha, to the Dhamma, and to the Sangha, and they observed the discipline perfectly. The Blessed Lord has not stated their destiny. It would be good to have a declaration about this. It would make the multitude have faith and so attain a good rebirth." Now King Seniya Bimbisara of Magadha was a righteous and lawful king, a friend of Brahmins, householders, town and country dwellers, so that his fame was spread abroad. That righteous king of ours is dead, who gave us so much happiness. Life was easy for us who dwelt under his righteous rule. And he was devoted to the Buddha, to the Dhamma, and to the Sangha, and observed the discipline perfectly. Thus people say, "King Bimbisara, who praised the Blessed Lord to his dying day, is dead. The Lord has not declared his destiny, and it would be good to have a declaration, for it would make the multitude have faith and so attain a good rebirth. Besides, it was in Magadha that the Blessed Lord gained his awakening. Since the Blessed One gained his awakening in Magadha, why does he not declare the destinies of those who have died there? For the Blessed Lord not to make such a declaration would cause unhappiness to the Magadhans. Such being the case, why does not the Blessed One make such a declaration?" After thus reflecting in solitude on behalf of the Magadhan devotees and followers, the Venerable Ananda rose at the crack of dawn and went to the Blessed One and saluted him. Then, sitting down to one side, he said, "Blessed Lord, I have heard what has been declared concerning the inhabitants of Nadika and their rebirths. However, the Blessed One has not declared the destiny of King Bimbisara and the other Magadhan devotees and followers of the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha, and who have also observed the discipline perfectly. Why does the Blessed One not declare the destinies of those who have died there, in Magadha? For the Lord not to make such a declaration would cause unhappiness to the Magadhans. Such being the case, why does not the Blessed One make such a declaration?" Then Having thus spoken to the Blessed One on behalf of the Magadhan devotees and followers, Venerable Ananda rose from his seat, prostrated and saluted the Blessed One, passed him by to the right, and departed. As soon as Venerable Ananda had gone, the Blessed One took his outer robe and bowl and went into Nadika for alms. Later on his return, after his meal, the Blessed One went to the brick house, and having washed his feet, he went in, and having thought over, considered, and given his whole mind to the question of the Magadhan followers and devotees, he sat down on the prepared seat, saying, I shall know their destiny and future lot, whatever it is. Then he perceived the destiny and fate of each one of them. In the evening, emerging from his meditative seclusion, the Blessed One came out of the brick house and sat down on the prepared seat in the shade of his lodging. Then the Venerable Ananda came to the Blessed One, prostrated and saluted him, sat down to one side and said, Blessed Lord, the Blessed One's countenance looks bright and shining, showing that the Blessed One's mind is at ease. Has the Lord been satisfied with today's lodging? Ananda, after you spoke to me about the devotees and followers of Magadha, I took my outer robe and bowl and went into Nadika for alms. Later on, after my meal, I went to the brick house and considered the question of the Magadhan devotees and followers, and I perceived the destiny and fate of each one of them. Then the voice of a yakkha who had passed over cried out, I am Janavasabha, Lord. I am Janavasabha, O Tathagata. Well, Ananda, do you know anyone who formerly bore the name of Janavasabha? I must admit, Blessed Lord, that I have never heard such a name, and yet, on hearing the name Janavasabha, my hair stood on end, and I thought, he whose name is Janavasabha will not be such a low-ranking yakkha. Ananda, immediately after I heard this voice, the yakkha appeared before me as a noble vision, and uttered a second cry. I am Bimbisara, Lord. I am Bimbisara, O Tathagata. I have now for the 7th time been reborn into the entourage of the Lord Vessavana. Thus, having passed away as a king of humans, I have now become among the Devas a king of non-human beings. 7 states here and 7 states there, 14 births. That's the tally of lives I can recall. For a long time, Blessed Lord, I have known myself to be exempt from the states of woe, and now the desire arises in me to become a once-returner. I said, it is amazing, it is astonishing that the revered yakkha Janavasabha should say this. On what grounds can he know of such an admirably unique attainment? Not otherwise, Blessed Lord, not otherwise, Tathagata, than through your own teaching. From the time when I became fully committed and gained complete faith, from then on, Blessed One, for a long time, I have known myself to be exempt from states of woe, and the desire has arisen in me to become a once-returner. Here, Blessed One, having been sent by King Vessavana on some business to King Virulhaka, I saw the Blessed One entering the brick house and sitting down and considering the question of the Magadhan devotees and followers. And since I had only just heard King Vessavana announce to his assembly what those folks' fates were, it is no wonder that I thought, I will go and see the Blessed One and report this to him. And these, Blessed Lord, are the two reasons why I came to see the Blessed One. Lord, in earlier days, long ago, on the first day of the 15th of the month at the beginning of the monsoon, in the full moon night, all the 33 gods were seated in the Suddhamma hall, a great congregation of divine beings. And the 4 great kings from the 4 quarters were there. There was the great king Dhātarātha from the east at the head of his followers, facing west. The great king Virulhaka from the south at the head of his followers, facing north. The great king Virupaka from the west at the head of his followers, facing east. And the great king Vesavana from the north at the head of his followers, facing south. On such occasions, that is the order in which they are seated, and after that came our seats. And those devas who, having lived the holy life under the Blessed One, had recently appeared in the heaven of the 33, outshining the other devas in brightness and glory. For that reason, the 33 gods were pleased, happy, filled with delight and joy, saying, "The devas' hosts are growing, the asuras' hosts are declining." Then, Lord, Sakka, ruler of the gods, seeing the satisfaction of the 33 gods, uttered these verses of rejoicing. The gods of 33 rejoice, their leader too, praising the Tathagata and Dhamma's truth, seeing new coming devas, fair and glorious, who've lived the holy life, now well reborn, outshining all the rest in fame and splendor, the mighty sage's pupils singled out. Seeing this, the 33 rejoice, their leader too, praising the Tathagata and Dhamma's truth. At this, the 33 gods rejoiced still more, saying, "The devas' hosts are growing, the asuras' hosts are declining." And then they consulted and deliberated together about the matter concerning which they had assembled in the Suddhamma hall. And the 4 great kings were advised and admonished on this matter as they stood by their seats, unmoving. The kings, instructed, marked the words they spoke, standing calm, serene, beside their seats. And then, Blessed Lord, a glorious radiance shone forth from the north, and a splendor was seen greater than the sheen of the devas. Sakka said to the 33 gods, "Sirs, when such signs are seen, such light is seen, and such radiance shines forth, Brahma will appear. The appearance of such radiance is the first sign of Brahma's approaching manifestation. When they see these signs, Brahma will soon appear. This is Brahma's sign, radiance vast and great." Then the 33 gods sat down, each in his proper place, saying, "Let us find out what comes of this radiance, and having found the truth of it, we will go towards it." The 4 great kings, sitting down in their places, said the same. Thus they were all agreed. Blessed Lord, whenever Brahma Sanankumara appears to the 33 gods, he appears having assumed a grosser form, a material form, because his natural appearance is not such as to be perceptible to their eyes. When he appears to the 33 gods, he outshines other devas in radiance and glory, just as a figure made of gold outshines the human figure. Then, Blessed Lord, when Brahma Sanankumara appears to the 33 gods, Not one of them salutes him, or rises, or offers him a seat. They all sit silently with palms together, cross-legged, thinking he will sit down on the couch of that God from whom he wants something. And the one on whose couch he sits down is as thrilled and delighted as a duly anointed Kshatriya king on assuming his royal office. Then, blessed Lord, Brahma Sanankumara, having assumed a material form, appeared to the 33 gods in the shape of the youth Panchasikha. Rising up in the air, he appeared floating cross-legged, just as a strong man might sit down on a properly spread couch or on the ground. And seeing the delight of the 33 gods, he uttered these verses of rejoicing. The gods of 33 rejoice, their leader too, praising the Tathagata and Dhamma's truth, seeing new-coming devas fair and glorious, who've lived the holy life, now well reborn, outshining all the rest in fame and splendor, the mighty sage's pupils singled out. Seeing this, the 33 rejoice, their leader too, praising the Tathagata and Dhamma's truth. Now to the matter of Brahma Sanankumara's speech, and as for the manner of his speech, his voice had 8 qualities. It was distinct, intelligible, pleasant, attractive, compact, concise, deep, and resonant. When he spoke in that voice to the assembly, its sound did not carry outside. Whoever has such a voice as that is said to have the voice of Brahma. Brahma Sanankumara, multiplying his shape by 33, he sat down cross-legged on each individual's couch of the 33 and said, "What do my lords the 33 think? Since the Blessed One, out of compassion for the world and for the benefit and happiness of the many, has acted to the advantage of devas and mankind, those, whoever they may be, who have taken refuge in the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha, and have observed the moral precepts, have, at death, at the breakup of the body, arisen in the company of the Parinimitta Vasavati Devas, or the Nimanarati Devas, or the Tusita Devas, or the Yama Devas, or in the retinue of the 33 gods, or of the 4 great kings, or at the very least in the company of the Gandhabhas. This was the burden of Brahma Sanankumara's speech. Every one of the gods he spoke to thought, "He is sitting on my couch. He is speaking to me alone." All the forms assumed with one voice speak, and having spoken, all at once are silent. And so the 33, their leader too, each thinks, "He speaks to me alone." Then Brahma Sanankumara assumed a single form. Then he sat down on the couch of Sakka and said, "What do my lords the 33 think? This Lord, the Arahant, Supreme Buddha, has known and seen the 4 roads to spiritual power, and how to develop, perfect, and practice them. What for? Here, a bhikkhu develops concentration of intention, accompanied by desire and effort of will, concentration of energy, accompanied by desire and effort of will, concentration of consciousness, accompanied by desire and effort of will, and concentration of investigation, accompanied by desire and effort of will. These are the 4 bases of spiritual power. And whatever recluses or Brahmins have in the past realized such powers in different ways, They have all developed and strongly practiced these 4 ways, and the same applies to all who may in the future or who do now realize such powers. Do my lords, the 33, observe such powers in me? Yes, Brahma. Well, I too have developed and strongly practiced these 4 ways. This was the burden of Brahma Sanankumara's speech, and he carried on. What do my lords of the 33 think? There are 3 gateways to the bliss proclaimed by the Blessed One who knows and sees. What 3? In the first place, someone dwells in association with sense desires, with unwholesome conditions. At some time he hears the noble Dhamma. He pays close attention and practices in conformity with it. By so doing, he comes to live dissociated from such sense desires and unwholesome conditions. As a result of this dissociation, pleasant feeling arises, and what is more, gladness. Just as pleasure might give birth to rejoicing, so, from pleasant feeling, he experiences gladness. In the second place, there is someone in whom the gross tendencies of body, speech, and thought are not dissipated. After some time, he hears the noble Dhamma. He pays close attention and practices in conformity with it. And his gross tendencies of body, speech, and mind are dissipated. As a result of this dissipation, pleasant feeling arises, and what is more, gladness. Just as pleasure might give birth to rejoicing, so from pleasant feeling he experiences gladness. In the third place, there is someone who truly does not know what is right and what is wrong, what is blameworthy and what is not, what is to be practiced and what is not, what is base and what is noble, and what is foul, fair, or mixed in quality. After some time he hears the noble Dhamma. He pays close attention to it and practices in conformity with it. As a result, he comes to know in reality what is right and what is wrong, what is blameworthy and what is not, what is to be practiced and what is not, what is base and what is noble, what is foul, fair, or mixed in quality. In him who knows and sees thus, ignorance is dispelled and knowledge and wisdom arises. With the waning of ignorance and the arising of knowledge, pleasant feeling arises, and what is more, gladness. Just as pleasure might give birth to rejoicing, so, from pleasant feeling, he experiences gladness. These are the 3 gateways to the bliss proclaimed by the Blessed Lord who knows and sees. This was the burden of Brahma Sanankumara's speech, and he went on further. What do my lords of the 33 think? How well has the Blessed Lord, the Buddha, who knows and sees, pointed out the 4 foundations of mindfulness for the attainment of that which is good. What are they? Here, a bhikkhu abides contemplating the body as body, earnestly, clearly aware, mindful, and having put away all covetousness and grief for the world. As he thus dwells, contemplating his own body as body, he becomes perfectly collected and perfectly serene. Being thus calm and serene, he gains knowledge and vision externally of the bodies of others. He abides contemplating his own feelings as feelings, earnestly, clearly aware, mindful, and having put away all covetousness and grief for the world. As he thus dwells contemplating his own feelings as feelings, he becomes perfectly collected and perfectly serene. Being thus calm and serene, he gains knowledge and vision externally of the feelings of others. He abides contemplating his own mind as mind, earnestly, clearly aware, mindful, and having put away all covetousness and grief for the world. As he dwells contemplating his mind as mind, he becomes perfectly collected and perfectly serene. Being thus calm and serene, he gains knowledge and vision externally of the minds of others. He abides contemplating his own mind objects as mind objects, earnestly, clearly aware, mindful, and having put away all covetousness and grief for the world. As he thus dwells contemplating his own mind objects as mind objects, he becomes perfectly collected and perfectly serene. Being thus calm and serene, he gains knowledge and vision externally of the mind objects of others. These are the four foundations of mindfulness, well pointed out by the Blessed Lord Buddha, who knows and sees for the attainment of that which is good. This was the burden of Brahma Sanankumara's speech. He went on further. What do my lords of the 33 think? How well has the Lord Buddha, who knows and sees, pointed out the 7 requisites of collectedness of mind, for the development of perfect collectedness of mind, and the perfection of collectedness of mind. What are they? They are right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right lifestyle, right effort, right mindfulness. That one-pointedness of mind that is produced by the 7 factors is called the noble right collectedness of mind, with its bases and requisites. From right view arises right intention. From right intention arises right speech. From right speech arises right action. From right action arises right lifestyle. From right lifestyle arises right effort. From right effort arises right mindfulness. From right mindfulness arises right collectedness of mind. From right collectedness of mind arises right knowledge. From right knowledge arises right liberation. If anyone were to truthfully declare, well proclaimed by the Lord Buddha is the Dhamma, visible here and now, timeless, inviting inspection, leading onward, to be realized and comprehended by the wise, each one for themselves, they were to say, "Open are the doors of the deathless," he would be speaking in accordance with the highest truth. For indeed, my lords, the Dhamma is well proclaimed by the Lord Buddha, visible here and now, timeless, inviting inspection, leading onward, to be comprehended and realized by the wise, each one for themselves. And 2, the doors to the deathless are open. Those who have unshakable faith in the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha, and are endowed with the virtues pleasing to the noble ones, those beings who have arisen here on account of their Dhamma training, amounting to more than 2,400 Magadhan followers who have passed over, who have by the destruction of the 3 fetters become stream winners, incapable of falling into states of woe, and certain of awakening. And indeed there are once returners here too. But of that other race indeed, of greater merit still, my mind can make no reckoning at all, for fear that I should speak untruth. This was the burden of Brahma Sanankumara's speech, and in connection with this the great king Vesavana reflected in his mind, "It is marvelous, it is wonderful that such a glorious teacher should arise, that there should be such a glorious proclamation of the Dhamma, and that such glorious paths to the sublime should be made known. Then Brahma Sanankumara, reading King Vessavana's mind, said to him, "What do you think, King Vessavana? There has been such a glorious teacher in the past, and such a proclamation, and such paths made known, and there will be again in the future." Such was the burden of what Brahma Sanankumara proclaimed to the 33 gods. The great king Vessavana, having heard and received it in person, related it to his followers. The Yaka Janavasabha, having heard it himself, related it to the Blessed Lord. The Blessed Lord, having heard it himself and also come to know it by his own super-knowledge, related it to the Venerable Ananda, who in turn related it to the bhikkhus and bhikkhunis, the male and female lay followers. So the holy life grew mighty and prospered and spread widely as it was proclaimed among mankind. So